o'clock, and we're here to look over the proposed settlement and make a decision of the Silver Mountain Tax Appeal case number CV 40-18232. And I'll turn it over to Ben.
Perfect. Thank you, Commissioner Zimmerman. As the Commissioners will see in front of you, you've got a packet that I've compiled for purposes of this meeting. That packet is going to consist of 4 documents. I'll start first with the top one in your packet. That is a proposed stipulation. Next, you're going to see a proposed order regarding the award of costs to the prevailing party. Third is an order for dismissal of the case. And lastly is going to be the spreadsheet of calculations, which sought to articulate how the interest would be calculated over the various years under the suit herein. To bring the BOCC up to speed, the stipulation which is put in front of you is a work product of negotiation between counsel for both parties in this case that was designed to incorporate the various decisions which have been made by the district court over the last few months. Those decisions have greatly impacted the course of this case and ultimately given a good deal of clarity to both sides as to what would be anticipated moving forward. As such, the parties believed that we were likely in a position where we could seek to resolve the case without any further litigation at this point, given the clarity that the court has provided on the issues that have been litigated up to today's date. As such, the stipulation which you now have in front of you seeks to bring some finality to the matter. There is a number of components, and if you turn to page 2 of that stipulation, I can walk the BOCC through those components. The first outline near the top of page 2 is going to identify the total amount taxpayers would be due and owed by virtue of the recalculation after suit of the taxes owed based on the new valuations determined by the district court. That includes within it a calculation of the total interest utilizing the spreadsheet that was at the back of your packet for the various years of alternating interest amounts. Within that spreadsheet, which will deviate from the stipulation for a moment to look at, you'll see that the tax commission rate for interest calculation fluctuates from 2018 to the present year. In 2018, the commission rate for interest was 4%, 2019, 5%, 2020, 4%, 21 was 2%, 22 was 3%, and this year is 5%. The 2018 year and the 2023 year are only calculations of partial dates, as the interest would not be due and owed for the entire calendar year of either of those years. As such, that brings us to the total amount of $182,621. Returning back to the stipulation itself, that $182,621 is the number that's articulated within subsection 1 here and is specifically outlined in the court's directive at previous hearings. This is the amount that would be a refund to the taxpayers coming from the various taxing districts which were responsible for that taxable amount originally assessed. Subsection 2 identifies the amount of award of cost. This is the amount that the county won by virtue of its motion for an award of cost in this case. That matter was litigated on May 25th, so roughly a month ago. Ultimately, the district court determined that at the end of this suit, the prevailing party was in fact Shoshone County, and as such, being the party that litigated this, was entitled to an award of cost in the amount of $83,716. Next, in subsection 3, you will see the contemplated exchange of cost associated with this case. That is, it is contemplated that on today's date, if the BOCC in fact approves this proposed stipulation, both of the entities will authorize their appropriate agents to be directed to execute and issue checks in the amounts noted in subsections 1 and 2 to be delivered to the opposing party on today's date. In subsection 4, you'll note that there will be an obligation jointly stipulated to by the parties to file the next 2 documents that are included in your packets as part of that exchange and stipulation. Lastly, and maybe most significant of all, in subsection 5, you'll see that by virtue of this stipulation, both parties are herein going to waive their right to any appeal, any orders, or any decisions here forth in this case, meaning that this stipulation will effectively bring finality and resolve to this litigation, which has been ongoing for roughly 6 years. With that said, the other documents that are in your packet are the proposed order for the award of costs to the prevailing party. That document will contain a number of legalese, which the BOCC may not necessarily be concerned with, but it cites to various rules that allow for the award of costs. It recitates how those costs were broken down by the court at the May 25th hearing, and ultimately outlines the order of the court. This document would be submitted to the court for signature and execution. The next document in your packet is the order for dismissal. This would essentially dismiss the suit based upon the stipulation of the parties and the other subsequent order, which we just walked through. With that said, are there any questions from the commissioners at this point, or if the commissioners would like input from any of the other elected officials present that have had a part in this litigation or the work that's gone into it? I'd open up the floor for either.
Well, just for the public's notice, this case went before the court, and it was originally the taxpayer was paying in $6 million in assessment. Was the assessment $6 million when you first started this, or was it 2?
No, that's what they contended the value was.
Okay.
And that is pretty close to what the BGA decided. That was also what came down from the different court.
Okay.
Like they've always paid on assessed value, and it ranged from the very beginning at 22.7, I believe, down to 9 million through some of those years. So,
And so we actually won the case because your assessment was correct. And you agreed on assessment a little lower than what?
right after we got correct information from the resort, and we hired our fee appraiser, that came in at approximately 15.5 million.
Okay.
So, and that's what we contended the value was. And that's basically where we ended up, wasn't it then? And we stipulated on some of those lots of Galena Ridge Golf Course and then the golf course itself.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Do you have any questions?
No, I think everyone's glad that it's settled.
No.
Well, in order to essentially dot the last I or cross the last T, the stipulation having been negotiated by legal counsel, really the last thing we're waiting on is for the BOCC to give its authorization of approval to adopt the stipulation that's proposed and authorize legal counsel to effectuate the filing of the associated documents with the exchange of the checks, which will be a directive to our clerk.
Okay. Are you ready to make a decision?
Yeah, could I ask a question?
Yes, certainly.
This amount, where does this amount come from?
So that amount is the total amount that includes the award that was given by virtue of the revaluation of the properties after suit, added to the amount of interest that was incurred for each of the years of the suit.
Is this the amount of what the cancellations could have been?
Not necessarily.
I just want to make sure.
Correct, not
Okay.
necessarily. And the reason why not necessarily is because it includes both the interest and then a subsequent stipulation, which you'll notice is identified as additional interest for 2018 in the amount of $1,000. Parties went through and attempted to parse out what the 2018 additional interest would have been had the taxpayers only paid their portion, understanding that the taxpayers could have only paid half in December and then the second half in June. With that understanding, council agreed that that number would likely be around $1,000 if litigated. So we agreed to stipulate to a nice round number and not incur any more expenses in having professionals attempt to parse that out or calculate it further.
Thank you.
Yep.
Are you ready to move forward?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh.
I'll motion to approve the stipulation of payment, refunds, cost, and dismissal of the case for case number CV 40-18-0232.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, any public comment?
So we're writing a check for around 100,000 or so now.
No,
We're writing a check for 182
We're getting money back.
and we're getting money back for
Roughly 100.
cost and fees.
Roughly 100. Ideas where the funds are coming from.
We're actually, the school district, the city, they actually owe us funds back. So I think it'll be, is it almost a wash or pretty close to it? With all the other taxing entities?
so, and remember this is an approximate.
Yeah.
The county share was third,
Yeah,
the city of Kellogg was third, school district was third.
Okay.
And then you also have the hospital and the fire in there for minimal amount, so.
okay. All right, I think we're done. Anything else?
I just need to know and write the check to. Are you gonna give me something that,
Want that
like an
information.
invoice or whatever? So-
Well, this will be your invoice,
Just use that, yeah.
but I do have the information for the check.
I'd like to thank the prosecutor's office for their hard work to, get us some funds back. I mean, that's amazing. Usually it's the other way around. The government pays the fees and costs. So thank you very much.
Well, I can say that we wouldn't be where we're at if it weren't for the hard work from everyone on this side of the table. And I would certainly include Connie Holmquist in that. I know she worked as Jerry's right hand assistant through this whole process and oftentimes took the rein on many aspects of it too, right alongside Jerry. Also Richard Smith, our outside counsel, we brought in to assist the prosecutor's office. A lot of hours went into this case, so I think it was definitely a group effort. But I'm happy to see where the county ended up at the end of this. I think that it was a success, certainly for the county in its decision to pursue this further and litigate it the way it was. So,
Anything else?
Will you be delivering the check? And tell it later too?
I will. Yep. You bet.
Okay, nothing else? Meeting adjourned.
Yeah, you'll